In the heart of this town, where the blue-collar folks roam, you'll find a scene that makes the everyday so.
Welcome everyone to another episode of Sports Talk Unfiltered. I'm your host Rod, and today we've got a really interesting, maybe even a little controversial topic on the table. We're talking about a term that's thrown around constantly in sports media and among fans, G.O.A.T, greatest of all time. And joining me today for the first time on the show is a good friend and an absolute encyclopedia of sports knowledge, Harvey. Welcome, Harvey.
And thanks for having me, Rod. It's great to be here and dive into this. You know, I've been looking forward to this conversation because, like you said, G.O.A.T is everywhere, and I think it's time we really dissect what that means, or perhaps what it should mean.
Exactly, and actually before we get into the modern usage, I wanted to set the stage a little for our listeners, especially the younger ones. When I was growing up, back in my maturing years, the term GOAT in sports spelled just like the animal. It had a completely different, almost opposite connotation. If someone was called the GOAT, especially in a team sport, it was because they made some colossal blunder at a crucial moment. They fumbled the ball on the goal line, missed an open shot at the buzzer, committed a penalty that cost the game. They became the scapegoat for the loss, even though, as we all know, it takes a whole team effort to win or lose. That player carried the weight, often unfairly, of that loss. It was a badge of shame, not honor.
Man, you're hitting on something so true, Rod. I remember that vividly. That's a perfect contrast. Today, if you say GOAT, everyone immediately thinks greatest of all time. But you're right, there was a time when being the GOAT meant you were the one who blew it. It's funny how language evolves, especially in sports, but this particular evolution, I think, has really cheapened the greatest of all time title. It's like we've forgotten the gravity that term used to carry, even if it was in a negative sense.
Absolutely, and that's where I want to start our main discussion today, Harvey, this idea of greatest of all time. My personal take, and I think it's shared by many who've watched sports for a while, is that declaring an athlete as the greatest in the entire history of a sport is something that ideally should span across multiple generations. We're talking 3, maybe 4 generations. That means you've got people, whether they're young or old, who have had the chance to see this player perform and to also see their peers, other great players from the same era. You need that kind of historical perspective.
You're so right. It's about context, isn't it? When we get past a few generations, then maybe it's okay to start including players from the early to middle parts of those eras in such a subjective discussion. But to look at today's players, Rod, some of whom haven't even retired yet, some are still in their prime, still actively playing, and then to try and label them as greatest of all time in the entire history of a sport, that requires a lot of audacity, right? Honestly, I think it's almost an affront to the actual legends of the game to include these current guys in that discussion so prematurely.
Audacity is a perfect word for it, Harvey. It really feels like a slap in the face to the folks who actually laid the groundwork. And I think part of the problem, and this goes beyond just sports, is that today's society is very much a flavor of the month type of world. Everything is so immediate, so fleeting. You see it especially when it comes to sports media. Sometimes it's just the media trying to push a narrative to promote commercial backing, to sell merchandise. And in that process, certain journalists, certain pundits, they just constantly promote these players to jump on the bandwagon, to get clicks, to get views.
Oh, absolutely. It's all about the hype cycle. And sometimes, Rod, it's even more cynical than that. It could just be a means of promoting one player because the news writers, or even the public, don't particularly like another player who might be less charismatic, maybe a little less controversial, but perhaps equally or even more skilled. So they elevate the more marketable, more likable player and instantly crown them GOAT before their career is even half over. It's like a popularity contest rather than a historical assessment.
You nailed it, a popularity contest. And what people sometimes fail to realize, or maybe they just conveniently forget, is that these so-called GOAT players are heavily aided by their surrounding teammates. Nobody plays in a vacuum, especially in team sports. When you have a group of incredibly talented players banding together, they become a force that makes one individual player look even better, simply because the team is winning, and they're put in advantageous positions. It's a collective effort, not a solo mission.
That's such a crucial point, Rod. You see it all the time. A quarterback with an amazing offensive line and incredible receivers will put up bigger numbers than a quarterback who's constantly running for his life or throwing to mediocre targets. Does that make the first quarterback inherently greater than the second? Not necessarily. It means he's in a better situation. The team's success gets attributed to the star, and then suddenly he's in the G.O.A.T conversation, overlooking the 5 guys blocking for him or the 2 guys catching his passes. It's a team sport after all.
It absolutely is. And look, there's undoubtedly a lot of incredible talent out there today. I'm not saying there aren't phenomenal athletes performing at peak levels, but that's even more reason not to single out one player in particular right now and slap that greatest of all time label on them. This notion, this subject, should really be reserved for those who have not only finished a full, illustrious career, but have also had a few years to enjoy being away from the spotlight, to let it all digest with the public, with history.
Exactly. Give it some time to breathe. When a player's career is definitively over, then their role in the sport for a given time frame becomes encapsulated. It's a complete body of work. That makes it much clearer to assess their actual, undeniable role in the history of the game. But this kind of objective analysis, it can only truly be accomplished when the average spectator's lifetime has had a chance to reflect on players from several generations of watching the game. You need that perspective, that distance.
Absolutely, and I think another huge factor in this reshaping, or rather the trivializing of the G.O.A.T reference, is social media. Social media has a massive role in this. With everything involving technology being so expedited nowadays, people just don't have the patience to wait for a career to be over. They want their heroes to be instantly recognized, instantly crowned. It's that instant gratification culture spilling over into sports. We saw it not that long ago. I mean, Joe Montana was the hottest subject in football for years, right? He was the benchmark quarterback for so long.
Oh, absolutely. Montana was the man. If you talked about clutch, if you talked about winning, it was Joe Cool. His name was synonymous with excellence. But you know what? Nowadays, his name is very rarely mentioned in these G.O.A.T conversations. And it's not because he's suddenly less great, it's because the spotlight has shifted. New players emerge, new narratives are pushed, and the attention span shrinks. Social media feeds that beast, doesn't it? Every week there's a new highlight, a new stat, a new reason to crown someone the greatest before the ink on their rookie contract is even dry.
Exactly, and it's not just about the players themselves, but also the context of the game. I mean, when we consider a player's career, we also have to think about the game's environment during those times. The rule changes, the equipment changes that one generation has either been deprived of or greatly benefited from when establishing statistical records. This is true across the gamut of sports. It's not just one or two. Take bowling, for instance.
Oh, bowling is a fantastic example. People might not realize how much that sport has changed. You have the wooden pin era, which was totally different. Then the pre- and post-urethane and reactive resin ball timeframes. The game of bowling is so much different today than it was 50 years ago. Players from the 1960s and 1970s, with their specific techniques and equipment, would have an incredibly tough time controlling the new balls and navigating the modern, complex oil patterns we see today on the lanes.
Absolutely, and conversely, today's players, if you transported them back in time to the early 1970s with wooden pins and basic rubber or plastic balls, they'd have a massive struggle. They'd have to do a lot more work manually to make the ball hook properly and consistently, to create that leverage and that action on the pins. The mechanics, the power, the strategy, it was all fundamentally different. So how do you compare a player who mastered one environment to a player who mastered a completely different one?
You can't. You simply can't make a direct apples-to-apples comparison. It's a completely different sport almost, in terms of technique and equipment. And this isn't just a bowling thing. This applies everywhere. The fundamental aspects of how a game is played and the tools used to play it, they evolve. And that evolution really makes the G.O.A.T label so problematic.
It really does. I mean, in regard to these changing times, I've personally witnessed 3 distinct eras in professional football in my lifetime. First, you had the end of the dead ball era, where defense reigned supreme and scoring was relatively low. Then came that next phase, from the later 1970s and into the 80s and up, with increased offense, more passing, and rules that started to favor the offense. And then what we have today, the highly inflated offense, where quarterbacks are throwing for 5,000 yards routinely and scoring is at an all-time high. It's a different game.
Totally different. And basketball too, Rod. Professional basketball allows a lot more flagrant traveling today than in prior decades. What used to be a clear violation is now often just part of the flow of the game, or sometimes it's just not called. And then, of course, the institution of the three-point line fundamentally changed strategy. Players who could shoot from deep became instant game changers, altering the entire landscape of offense and defense. How do you compare a dominant center from the 60s, who operated strictly in the paint, to a guard today who's launching threes from 30 feet out?
It's a completely different skill set, a different game. Baseball, too. You have a more lively ball now and often shorter distances to the fences in many parks. What might have been a long fly ball for a Hall of Famer in the 1950s is a home run for a good hitter today. In tennis, oversized rackets now mean a much larger sweet spot. There's more power inherently built into the rackets themselves, allowing for harder serves and ground strokes with less effort. In golf, livelier balls, clubs that hit the ball farther than those of years past, not to mention better manicured courses that are designed for lower scores. Every sport has seen these systemic changes.
Every single one. So when someone says G.O.A.T about a current player, it's like they're ignoring all of this history, all of these environmental shifts. They're trying to compare apples to oranges, but the apples and oranges are from completely different planets. It's an impossible and frankly unfair comparison to make when you don't account for the evolution of the game.
That's so true, Harvey. And here's where I think the term G.O.A.T actually becomes somewhat appropriate, though completely unintended in its modern usage. When we're trying to make a case for current players being included with these absolute legends of the sport, the idea of the lowly GOAT being associated with such a lofty title, it's almost like putting a suit of clothes on a common hobo and then proclaiming him king amongst the sea of the working upper class, people who have actually earned their positions over decades of toil and achievement.
Wow, that's a strong comparison, Rod. But you know what? While it might seem inflammatory at first glance, when you actually take the time to compare the legendary athletes, the true icons, to today's superstars, that metaphor isn't as extreme as it sounds. There's a fundamental difference in the journey, in the context, in the making of a legend.
Exactly. Think about the old-style work ethic of a highly skilled, often blue-collar athlete, the best in his field, who endured all the wars on the field or on the lanes or on the court throughout a full, grueling career. And then you compare that with a similar in stature figure today who's fine for the title, they're lauded, they're celebrated, but then when they're asked to do the real work, to face genuine adversity, instead of receiving handouts or having the path smoothed for them by the upper echelon of the system, it's then when people should really realize that the current player, while being a standout in the game, absolutely phenomenal, isn't ready to join the ranks of the sports icons, the true G.O.A.Ts.
You know, Rod, it's about paying your dues, isn't it? It's about earning that title over time, through changing eras, through genuine struggle, through consistent excellence without all the bells and whistles that sometimes make today's players look better than they might actually be in a vacuum. It's about respecting the past and understanding that greatness isn't something that can be manufactured or declared by a media cycle. It has to be proven, sustained, and then, most importantly, endure the test of time and historical scrutiny.
That's it, Harvey. It has to endure. And until a player's career is truly over and time has had a chance to put it into proper perspective, accounting for all the changes in the game, the rules, the equipment, and the societal shifts that influence how we perceive greatness, I think we really need to reserve that G.O.A.T title. Let's appreciate the amazing talent we see today, but let's not cheapen the legacy of the legends who truly define greatest of all time. This has been a really enlightening conversation, Harvey.
It really has, Rod. I think it's important for fans to step back and think critically about these labels. It's not about denying current greatness, it's about respecting history and understanding the true weight of a term like greatest of all time. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, my friend, and thank you all for tuning in to Sports Talk Unfiltered. We hope we've given you something to chew on. Until next time, keep those debates healthy, and remember, true greatness takes time. We'll catch you on the next episode.
So next time you're looking to roll with your mates, know the joy of bowling celebrates all fates, with every strike ringing out like a song in this blue-collar game. You know we all belong. You know we all belong.
From the Staten Island Advance from the year 1986. Janalo foils Roth's title bid. Don Janalo struck out in the 10th frame to hold off Mark Roth 214 to 209 in the title game of the Professional Bowlers Association's $150,000 Light Beer Championship yesterday. Janalo of Perrysburg, Ohio, collected $27,000 for his 5th career victory on the PBA Tour. Roth of Spring Lake Heights, New Jersey, was trying for his 33rd career title. He rolled past Brian Voss 245 to 169 and Walter Ray Williams Jr. 236 to 211 to reach the nationally televised final match. Voss and Jeff Bellinger tied at 211 to open the five-man finals. Voss then won a two-frame roll-off 40-39 and advanced to the second game against Roth. Roth had a chance to shut out Ginalo in the 10th frame of the title match with 2 strikes. He got the first one but left a solid 9-pin on his second ball. Ginalo then struck out but insisted Roth had outbowled him. When a guy comes out striking like Mark did in the 245 and 236 games, you just have to hope you can go out and bowl a better game or that he catches a few bad breaks and you don't, Ginalo said. And that was the case today. Roth left a solid 4-9 split in the 3rd frame and fell behind by 26 pins. He then struck his next 4 shots and converted the 3-6-7-10 split in the 9th to keep himself in the match. But the solid 9-pin in the 10th frame left Roth in 2nd place for the 26th time in his career. He earned $14,000. The victory gives Ginalo a shot at a possible $50,000 bonus. The tournament was the second leg of the Light Slam series, which offers the extra money to a player who can win 2 of the 3 tournaments during the current winter tour. David Ozio won the series' Miami tournament 3 weeks ago. The final leg of the Slam is in North Olmsted, Ohio in 3 weeks. Williams, out of Stockton, California, earned $8,500, Voss $7,000, and Bellinger, who finished 5th here last year, $6,000. From the year 2005 in the Huntsville Times. Madison teen gets bowling tips from pros. Christmas gift lets Chris Finch take part in Pro-Am. A recent Christmas gift from his parents allowed a Madison teenager to bowl alongside professionals at the Professional Bowlers Association Birmingham Open held recently in the Magic City. Chris Finch, 13, could be seen in the finals of the Professional Bowling Tournament, which was broadcast live on ESPN. The event was indeed a wonderful experience for the young bowler who participates in the Saturday Youth Bowling League at Madison Bowling Center. Bowling with the professionals was very exciting, and they offered tips for me to become a better bowler, said Chris, who carries a 146 average. Tom Finch, Chris's father, said he picked up a brochure at the Madison Bowling Center, which had information regarding a Pro-Am portion of the Birmingham Open on the Professional Bowlers Association Tour. The Pro-Am cost $139 and allowed a bowler to actually bowl 3 games alongside many of the professionals participating in the PBA event. Also, each Pro-Am participant was given a bowling ball by the PBA. What's neat about the event is the fact that bowlers have the chance to interact with the professionals on the same lanes the pros use during the event, Tom said. Other sports can learn a thing or two from the PBA. Hosted by the Lightning Strikes lanes in Trussville, located just outside Birmingham, the $230,000 Birmingham Open featured many of the top names of the PBA Tour. For the second consecutive week, Patrick Allen picked up top honors by defeating Mike Devaney 218-216 in the finals, winning $40,000. Chris said he practiced a lot to prepare to bowl with the professionals. I didn't want to mess up in front of the pros and all of the other people who were watching, he said. I actually did very well bowling with the pros. Chris bowled a 561 series, which was his best ever. Each amateur rolled 5 frames with a professional. The pros rotated among the amateurs. Chris had time on the lanes with Danny Wiseman of Baltimore, who finished 8th in the tournament, Tim Chris of Bel Air, Maryland, Mike Wolf of New Albany, Indiana, and Hugh Miller of Seattle. Chris also met Chris Barnes of Texas, who took 3rd place in the tournament and took home $10,000. Chris said he plans on using the PBA ball he received from the event. The colors of red and black match the Brunswick ball he already owns. He was awarded a certificate inscribed with the names of the pros with whom he bowled. Chris is the son of Tom and Shirley Finch. He has a brother, Adam, 7. He plays soccer for Discovery Middle School and plays recreational soccer and basketball. He took up bowling 3 years ago at the urging of a friend. He likes the game because it is fun and it allows him to meet new people. Chris describes his style as powerful. He tries to get a big hook on the ball and throw it very hard. At the Professional Bowlers Association Birmingham Open, Chris met longtime professional bowler Carmen Salvino of Illinois. "He told me to be a good student because school will teach me to think while I'm bowling," he said. "I think that was good advice." Paul Jordan, a bus driver for Horizon Elementary School, also took part in the Pro-Am event. From the year 1970 in the Rockford Register Star. Bowler hurls $7,789 strike at Reich's. Burglars used the bowling ball to break through a concrete wall and made off with $7,789 early today from Reich's bowling lanes on North Main Street. The burglary was reported by Mrs. Dorothy Vanderall of Grant Avenue, an employee who went to work shortly before 5 a.m. and found that an outside door and an inside office door had been pried open. Police said the intruders apparently used the bowling ball to break a hole in the concrete wall adjacent to a wall safe. Officers said the burglars were then able to remove a money deposit chute and reach through into the safe. Police said money was also taken from a jukebox and a bowling ball cleaning machine. From the year 2012 in the Cranbrook Townsman. Cranbrook bowler scores perfect game with 12 strikes. Not everyone can claim to be perfect, but Dave Wendell can. Wendell, a local Cranbrook bowler, threw 12 consecutive strikes at a rec league game at Juniper Lanes on Wednesday night for a perfect 450 score. The feat, which has only happened 10 times since 1962 at the Alley, came after Wendell switched up his style when he wasn't satisfied with the previous game. There was never any doubt about the strikes, as they were big splashes that cleanly knocked down all 5 pins, he said. "It felt surreal," Wendell said. The possibility of achieving a perfect game didn't really sink in until he looked up at the board and saw his 10th strike. But instead of getting weighed down by pressure, Wendell said he felt relief. "In a sense, there was no pressure on me at that point because to accomplish a 400 score is very difficult," he said. "I thought, just hit the middle. It doesn't matter if you punch a head pin. Just hit the middle because then at least you tried." With the whole bowling alley watching on his 12th and final throw, Wendell said he just kept doing what he'd been doing for the last 11 strikes. "I went up there, looked at my spot, didn't take too much time, threw the ball, and as soon as I threw it, I said, 'Oh my God, it's going to be a strike.' The whole bowling alley was watching. I was the only one up there, and just the cheers from the back was just unreal." Wendell, who was playing in a recreation league with 5 other teammates, had never come close to a perfect game before in 35 years of bowling. Shane Williams, the proprietor of Juniper Lanes, witnessed the achievement along with a crowd of fellow bowlers. Williams, who has owned the alley for the last 6 years, has only seen 2 perfect games. "It was incredible when you're sitting there watching it because you're holding your breath when he throws the ball, waiting to see what happens," said Williams. "But you're also trying not to distract him. To actually witness it and see it is something else because it is so rare." Wendell changed his approach for the perfect game after bowling an unsatisfactory round. Instead of taking his time and staring down his spot and taking time to think about his throw and his follow-through, Wendell sped up his approach. "After I got about 5 in a row, it just started to come in a blur. Not that I haven't gotten 5 in a row before, but it just felt different, and I really wasn't nervous." Now that he's got his first perfect game in the bag, he'll have to chase the records of Harry Porter and Hugh Hamilton, who have 2 perfect games to their names at Juniper Lanes. Porter scored 450 in 1990 and 94, while Hamilton threw perfect games in 1993 and 2004. from the Richmond Times-Dispatch from the year 2009. Narciso takes title. Lynette Narciso of Charlottesville beat top-seeded Shaunique Reed of Portsmouth 122-109 yesterday to win the Virginia Ladies All-Stars Duckpin Tour event in Suitland, Maryland. Narciso won $500. From the year 1980 in Florida today. Fahlgren finally strikes it rich. Palmer Fahlgren ran off 4 straight victories Saturday to capture his second career Professional Bowlers Association tournament and the $20,000 first prize in the $125,000 tour event here. Fahlgren, a 10-year tour veteran at age 29, edged top-seeded Marshall Holman of Medford, Oregon 211-196 in the championship match. Holman needed a double to win, but left the 2-4-5 pins on his first ball in the 10th frame. Fahlgren earlier had defeated George Pappas of Charlotte, North Carolina in the first match 256-175. Les Dykes of Palatine, Illinois 197-190, and Henry Gonzalez 210-179 to battle his way into the title match. The Sacramento, California resident, who won the 1975 San Jose Open, had a total of 874, giving him a 218 average for the 4 matches. "I had the right shot for today," explained Fahlgren. "It was a throwback to the shot I used to play when I first started on the tour, down and in, directly at the pocket. I was lucky, but I had so much desire, I just rooted the pins down." In the championship match against Holman, Fahlgren jumped off to a 20-pin lead when he doubled in the 2nd and 3rd frames, while Holman missed a 2-4-5 spare in the 4th frame. Fahlgren's championship bid was almost halted in the 2nd match when 3rd-seeded Zykes left a solid 8-pin when he needed a strike. And here's another bowling hint from the Dr. X Bowling Clinic. This is a 2-part tip because it was in 2 separate editions of the news from the same year. The first, from the Times from the year 1961. "Don't be ashamed of your straight ball," by Gallagher. "Just the other night I heard somebody say, 'Why don't you start out right? Learn to roll a hook.' Well, that couldn't be more wrong, because the straight ball is the easiest to control, and the bowler who doesn't learn how to control the ball first can expect trouble. If you're a beginner, stick to that straight ball until you can hit the right pocket and pick up spares with regularity. Only then are you ready to try some other delivery. And when you do, you'll probably be more successful at it than many. Your straight ball will have taught you how to control the ball better than other bowlers." And from the year 1961 in the Los Angeles Mirror, under Bowling Tips for Women, "Straight Ball Best for Control," by D. Purcello. This is the type of delivery that I suggest all beginners use, since it is my belief that better than 80% of the bowling game lies in back of the foul line. Strive to get the approach down pat before concerning yourself with the mechanics of hooking the ball. The straight ball is rolled with the thumb pointed directly at your target during your steps to the foul line. It is also released this way with the fingers directly underneath the ball. You deliver it from the right side of the approach, touching it down perhaps 7 to 8 boards from the right-hand gutter. Although not the best pin getter, the straight ball is the simplest and easiest to control. From the Jersey Journal from the year 1972, "Scrap Craft Fun with Edna." Look what you can make with an unsuspected, easily available scrap material: bowling pins. Damaged bowling pins are discarded in considerable quantities by bowling alleys and can be had for the asking. Create your own personalities for conversation pieces, novelties, or centerpieces. Sand the pieces before painting with flat paint or enamel. To use tempera, Rub the brush onto a bar of soap after dipping into the paint. First, paint top 6 inches of pen in flesh color for the head. Paint rest of the pen in desired color for costume. After adding costume accessories, attach arms made of paper, fabric, or oilcloth. Cut them about 2 inches wide, 5 inches long, and curved slightly. Glue in place and add hands. Then there's a figurine called Happy. Use top 6 inches of man's sports sock or other sock with long ribbed cuff for his sweater. Slip over a bowling pin and turn down top for turtleneck. Use a 4-inch section of the toe for his hat. Cut sleeves from remainder of sock. Seam sleeves, slip over arms and sew to sweater. Add paper belt and buckle. And for the other figure in the article called Cowboy, paint top and bottom of body for shirt and chaps. For the brim of the hat, cut a 6.5 inch by 8 inch oval from construction paper. Cut out hole in center and fit oval overhead. For crown, roll a 3 inch by 9 inch paper strip to desired size and glue or tape to hold. Glue to brim. Push in edge of crown to shape top of hat. Tie a cloth neckerchief around neck and add a paper belt. Add paper arms, which match the color of the shirt. From the San Antonio Express News from the year 1996, Shirey defeats McMullen for LPBT title. Top-seeded Sandra Jo Shirey of Coldwater, Michigan, defeated Debbie McMullen of Denver, Colorado, 227 to 214 this Thursday to win the LPBT event and $10,000 at Kenner, Louisiana this week. It was Shirey's 9th career win. San Antonio's Rachel Perez, who has cashed in 3 of the LPBT's 4 events, had an 11-20-1 record and a total pinfall of $6,943 to earn $1,175 for 25th place. Shanna Ray of Corpus Christi finished 19th for $1,325. The playoff round started when Cheryl Daniels defeated Robin Romeo 279 to 238. Carolyn Doran then defeated Daniels 224 to 189, and then Debbie McMullen defeated Doran 246 to 205.
Well, I guess we've come to the end and we'll be wrapping it up for today. Thanks for stopping by and tuning in. As usual, if you haven't already done so and would like to be notified when future videos become available and are published, feel free to hit the subscribe button in the lower right corner of the videos or YouTube video screen. Have a great week, and I look forward to seeing everyone on the upcoming Thursday or Friday. Take care.